Beloved child, I want to touch your eyes, not only so that you may see more clearly the things before you, but so that you may see with the light that comes from me. For there are those who have eyes yet only see faults, things worthy of contempt, and chaos to condemn. But I am calling you to step into another way of seeing, a way of seeing that recognizes the pain behind silence, the wound behind hardness, and the cry for help hidden beneath thorny behavior. When your eyes belong to me, you will no longer look at others as problems to avoid, but as children who need to be led back to hope. You will not look at the world with the indifference of one standing outside it, but with the compassion of one sent into the darkness carrying a lamp. I do not give you the ability to see more deeply so that you may exalt yourself, nor so that you may use that insight as a crown for pride. Everything I place within you is meant to serve, to heal, and to build up. If you see a sorrow, it is not so that you may recount it as some strange story, but so that you may know how to bend down and comfort. If you recognize an injustice, it is not so that you may feed blind anger, but so that you may rise with wisdom and courage. If you see beauty still remaining among the ashes, it is not so that you may romanticize brokenness, but so that you may help others believe that I can still make something new from a place that seemed lost. Eyes sanctified by me do not seek an opportunity to boast of their sharpness. They seek the opportunity to love at the right moment, speak the right word, and place a hand where someone needs to be lifted. There are wounds that do not cry out loudly. They hide inside forced smiles, hurried voices, excessive busyness, and people who keep saying they are fine while their eyes are weary. If you look only through the habits of mankind, you will pass them by as though passing a closed door. But when you look with my light, you will know how to stop. You will not rush to judge the hot-tempered person, because perhaps within them is a wound that has not yet been tended. You will not despise the weak person, because perhaps they have been fighting longer than you imagine. You will not overlook the silent one, because perhaps they have spent all their strength trying to name what they are enduring. I want your eyes to become the beginning of mercy, so that from that gaze, your words may become softer, your actions purer, and your presence a place where others feel less alone. But you must also remember that seeing with love does not mean closing your eyes to what is wrong. Eyes that belong to me are both the eyes of a lover and the eyes of a watchman. The lover finds green shoots in scorched ground. The watchman recognizes smoke and fire before the whole city awakens. The lover knows how to embrace the fallen. The watchman knows how to lift his voice when there is an abyss on the road ahead. If you only warn without love, your words will become cold and sharp like stone. But if you only comfort and dare not warn, your gentleness may become a veil that hides danger. I want you to learn this holy balance, tender-hearted toward people, yet watchful against darkness, full of mercy toward the one who stumbles, yet unwilling to compromise with what is destroying them. Remember Nehemiah, the one who heard that Jerusalem lay in ruins and that its walls had been broken down. He did not treat it as a distant story and then continue living comfortably. When he heard of the devastation, he grieved, prayed, and then rose to act. His eyes did not merely see fallen stones. He saw the honor of his people wounded, saw the need for restoration, saw that a ruined place could still be rebuilt if someone was willing to carry the burden before me. Nehemiah did not build the wall to display strength, but to protect life, restore community, and create a dwelling place again for those who had lived in fear. That story teaches you that eyes belonging to me do not stop at being moved. They lead you to prayer, then to responsibility, then to faithful action. In the same way, I do not want you to build walls between yourself and others through suspicion, pride, or excessive self-defense. There are walls that must be built to protect what is holy, but there are also walls that must be torn down so love can pass through. Discern this with wisdom. When a suffering person comes near, Do not build a wall with cold advice. Build a bridge through listening. When someone is different from you, do not build a wall with prejudice. Build a bridge with respect and truthfulness. When you see a divided community, do not add more stones to the boundaries of resentment. Ask me what bridge you can lay down. A word of reconciliation, an act of service, a humble presence, a prayer no one knows about. The one who belongs to me is not always the one who speaks the most, but the one who makes a path for life to pass through places that were once cut off. You will see injustice, and it may make your heart ache. Do not let that ache become bitterness. Let it become pure courage. Some people see injustice and only learn contempt. Some see darkness and only learn to shout. But I want you to see so that you may know where to stand, what word to speak, and what must be served and restored. Your voice does not need to be fierce in order to have strength. A word born of truth, humility, and love can travel farther than cries filled with injury. When you speak, let your goal not be to defeat another person, but to open a way for truth, protect the vulnerable, and bring hope to places weighed down. Righteousness is not separated from mercy. Mercy is not separated from truth. When these two meet within you, your gaze becomes clear and your words gain weight. And then you will also see beauty in places few people look. You will see a ray of light in someone who once failed, dignity in someone forgotten, and an opportunity for restoration in a place others call an ending. These are the eyes of the lover, eyes that do not deny the ashes, yet do not believe the ashes are the final word. I want you to rejoice over small things, someone beginning to hope again, a family learning to forgive little by little, a weary person daring to pray, a child laughing after days of fear, someone who had wandered returning to the truth. These forms of beauty are not loud, but in my eyes they are precious as gold. When you recognize them, you will learn to live with greater gratitude, greater gentleness, and less captivity to the darkness of bad news. My child, surrender your eyes to me each day. Ask me to wash away from you the hurried gaze, the suspicious gaze, the comparing gaze, the gaze that only seeks what is lacking. Let me place within you a healing gaze, to see in order to understand in order to love, and to love in order to serve. When you look at a person, ask yourself, what am I seeing in them that you have not yet shown me? When you look at a situation, ask, what do you want to restore here? When you look at yourself, remember not only to see the cracks, but to see my hand still at work. For if you do not learn to look upon yourself with mercy and truth, it will be difficult for you to look upon others with those same eyes. Therefore, beloved child, do not ask me only to let you see more. Ask me to make you love more through what you see. Do not ask for sensitivity only to know what is hidden. Ask for a heart clean enough to use that sensitivity to lift up, not to wound. Eyes that belong to me are eyes that know how to warn when danger draws near, but also know how to find flowers growing among ruins. They are eyes that guard the city, and also tend the garden. When you carry such eyes, you will become a bridge builder in a world that loves to raise walls, a lamplighter in weary rooms, one who names hope where others only see dust and ashes. And when you see as I teach you to see, your presence will quietly speak to many people, telling them that they have not been forgotten, that their wounds can still be tended, that justice is still worth seeking, and that my beauty can still bloom even in places that seem to have nothing left to hope for. Beloved child, there are times when I do not answer you immediately, not because I am distant, nor because I am indifferent to your cry. My silence is not a cold emptiness, but a holy room into which I lead you, so I may teach you to hear what is deeper than the sounds outside. When you ask and do not yet see a door opening, when you seek and do not yet see a clear sign, when you question and the heavens seem quiet, it is easy for you to think you have been left alone. But my child, precisely in those moments, when it seems nothing is happening, I am touching the deepest place within you, where mixed desires are sifted. where true longings are preserved, where your heart learns to recognize what is essential and what is only a passing echo of emotion. Many times, you think you need a quick answer, a clear way out, a confirmation that will free you from waiting. You imagine that if I speak at once, your heart will be at peace. If I give at once, you will be satisfied. If I explain at once, you will be strong enough to continue. But I know there are things you call needs that are truly haste dressed in the clothing of urgency. There are things you desire, not because they belong to your destiny, but because they promise to soothe your anxiety for a moment. There are answers you demand, not so that you may obey more deeply, but so that you may control more completely. Therefore, I allow silence to remain like a quiet fire, not to destroy you, but to cause light and weightless things to evaporate, until finally only what carries true weight remains before me. Pay attention, child. When a desire comes from shallowness, it often cannot endure a season of waiting. It needs to be answered immediately, noticed immediately, fed by emotion immediately. But true longing is different. The more time passes, the purer it becomes. The more it is tested, the deeper it grows. The more it passes through silence, the more it turns toward me, rather than only toward what you want to receive. At first, you may come to me because you need a miracle, a door, a change. But when I keep you in stillness, you begin to realize that if you have everything, yet lack my presence, your heart is still empty. But if you have me, even while the answer has not yet come, you can still breathe in peace. That is a lesson no noise can teach. Only holy silence can engrave it deeply within you. I do not rebuke you for having once asked for things smaller than myself. I know you are a child learning to mature. I know you have worries, pressures, and longings that are very real in your life. But I do not want you to stop at the hand that gives blessing and forget the face of the Father. I do not want you to receive a gift and then leave the room while I am inviting you to remain beside me. I do not want you to turn prayer into a place where you merely present a list of lacks, forgetting that prayer is a place where your heart is brought into nearness. You may ask, you may weep, you may tell me everything you need, but in that process, I will gently lead you into a greater knowing. What makes you truly full is not what I place into your hands, but I myself being with you. Remember the prophet Elijah, who had witnessed mighty signs, who had faced evil with courage, yet also came to a moment when he was weary, afraid, and fled into a lonely place. He needed to hear me, but I did not come to him in the noise that mankind most easily notices, not in the strong wind that shook the mountains, not in the earthquake that made the land tremble, not in the blazing fire that astonished the eyes, but in a gentle, quiet whisper. Do you see? I do not always speak by shaking everything. Sometimes I come so softly that only the one who is willing to stop can recognize me. Sometimes my voice does not compete with the voices of the world, does not force itself into the middle of the noise, but waits for you to step out of the commotion and listen with a heart made still. So do not fear the quiet spaces I allow. That silence may seem like a wall to the impatient, but to the one who seeks me, it becomes a door. It keeps you from unnecessary sounds, from suggestions that make you confused, from voices that pull you out of trust. The world always wants to fill you with news, opinions, comparisons, anxieties, and counsel that does not come from holy wisdom. If you keep opening your heart for every voice to enter, it will be hard for you to recognize which sound is mine. Therefore, I use silence to purify the hearing within you, so you will no longer chase thunder merely because it is loud, but will know how to recognize the gentle wind that carries life. There are people who only believe I am near when they see outward signs, when circumstances change, when prayer is answered in the way they expected. But I want to bring you into a deeper maturity. I want you to know that I am near even when there is no sign. I want you to recognize my hand even when you have not yet seen the result. I want you to stand firm in my love even when today's emotions do not burn brightly. When you learn this, you will no longer be dragged along by the rise and fall of circumstances. You will not need every door to open before believing that I am leading the way. You will not need every question explained before believing that I am still wise. You will not need every pain to disappear before believing that I am still kind in silence. I also teach you to stop fearing your own heart. There are things within you that only rise when you sit still. Old sorrows, unhealed expectations, disappointments you have tried to bury beneath work and noise. You may think silence makes you weaker, but in truth it only reveals what needs my touch. I do not bring these things into the light to shame you. I bring them out so they will no longer secretly rule you. When you let me step into those places, you will see that silence is no longer frightening. It becomes the garden where I pull up bitter roots, water dry places again, and sow within you a peace that does not depend on the voice of the crowd. Therefore, when I have not yet answered, do not rush to fill the emptiness with impatience. Do not run to seek another voice simply because my voice comes later than you desire. Do not create signs for yourself just to feel reassured, and do not let silence be misunderstood as absence. Sit with me. Let your breathing slow down. Let your heart stop arguing. Learn to speak to me not only with long words, but with the sincere presence of a child standing before the Father. Some of the deepest prayers need little sound. They are simply quiet surrender, open hands, a heart that stops demanding control and begins to trust. Then one day, you will look back and understand that the silence was never empty. It taught you to distinguish between what is passing and what is eternal, between a desire to be indulged and a longing to be transformed, between noise that excites you and a calling that leads you into the right path. You will realize that I did not withhold the answer to hurt you, but delayed it so you could find the greater reward. You once thought what you needed most was the gift, but I led you to know that the giver himself is the source of satisfaction. You once thought what you needed most was an explanation, but I taught you that being near me is more precious than understanding everything. And when you learn this lesson, you will walk with greater peace, greater steadiness, and greater depth, because you no longer seek my voice only in great upheavals, but learn to recognize me in gentleness, in quiet spaces, in ordinary breath, and in a nearness that does not need to display itself yet is always full of power. Beloved child, let your heart become quiet and hear me speak to you with the tenderness of a father who has been with you in every lowest step. You once thought the valley was your place of settlement, but I only used the valley as a hidden classroom. You once thought the days of being pressed down were proof that you had been forgotten. But in that very place I was training your feet to endure, your eyes to see farther, and your heart to rely on me above every passing support. I did not bring you through hardship to imprison you in painful memories. I brought you through it so that what was shallow could fall away from you, so that what was false could no longer cling to you, so that you would not enter the new season with arrogance, but with humility tested and refined. You were not created to keep bowing your head in darkness. You learned in the night, but you do not belong to the night. You were shaped in the low place, but the calling I placed upon you still points towards something higher, brighter, wider, and closer to me. There is an elevation that does not come from human hands, nor from fleeting applause. The elevation I have for you is a holy arrangement, the moment when I bring you into the right place, the right season, and the right responsibility for which you have long been prepared. Do not view what I am about to do merely as a reward after tears. See it as the completion of a process I have quietly guided. When you were delayed, I was deepening the roots. When you were misunderstood, I was teaching you not to live by recognition. When you lost things you once leaned upon, I was teaching you that I am the unshakable rock. When you passed through unseen days, I still saw. When you endured things no one understood, I still understood. And now, what once seemed to be the place that slowed you down will become the platform from which you step into a new height. But my child, a new height does not necessarily begin with outward splendor. Many times, the first sign of promotion is a deeper peace, a clearer discernment, a more mature love, a steadiness no longer dragged away by praise or criticism. Before, one accusation could make you lose sleep. Now you are learning to stand still beneath my gaze. Before, one judgment could cause you to withdraw. Now you know that your worth does not rest in the mouth of men. Before, you feared rejection, feared not being enough, feared being seen wrongly. Now you are beginning to understand that trials do not define you, but only reveal what I have planted in you. True elevation does not only place you in a higher position, it makes what is within you broader, deeper, and purer, so that the new position does not cause you to waver. Remember David, the child who was once in the fields, tending sheep in obscurity. No one in the house thought that the quiet pasture was a training ground for a throne. The days of facing wild beasts, the nights keeping watch in the cold wind, the hours when no one called his name, all of it seemed small, yet it was forming his hands, courage, and trust. When the time came, the oil was poured out, not because David pushed himself forward, but because I saw what others overlooked. And even after he was called, he still had to pass through many caves, pursuits, and lonely places before sitting in the appointed position. Do you see? Being chosen does not exempt you from the process. Rather, being chosen often leads you into a deeper journey of refining, so that when you stand in a high place, you will not forget the one who met you in the low place. Therefore, do not despise the sorrows that have passed. I will not let them become chains around your life. I will turn them into a treasury of wisdom so that you may lift others. The things that once made you collapse will no longer be merely sad memories, but will become the language of compassion. You will meet people who are crying as you once cried, fearing as you once feared, standing at the crossroads where you once stood, and then you will not speak to them with cold theory. You will speak with the gentleness of one whom I have raised up. You will not give them pity, but hope. You will not boast that you are strong, but testify that my hand can turn ashes into beauty, broken places into healing places, and one who once only tried to survive each day into one who knows how to strengthen others. What I am bringing you into is a position of responsibility, not only of comfort. You have received much through years of being bandaged, sheltered, and taught, but there will come a time when you will not only stand waiting to be lifted, but begin to become an arm that lifts others. That is the sign of a season of maturity. You no longer only ask, "Who will understand me?" but begin to ask, "What light can I bring to the one who is lost?" You no longer only pray for your own healing, but begin to stand beside others in their process. You no longer use your wound as a reason to hide, but allow it to become evidence that I can restore what seemed lost. You will see that the very places that once hurt the most become the places where mercy flows most powerfully. Prepare your heart, but do not prepare with tension. Prepare through simple obedience each day. Keep your heart pure when the door opens. Keep humility when others begin to recognize what I have placed in you. Keep your life of prayer when responsibility increases. Keep your ears closer to me than to praise. I do not lift you so that you may become farther from me. I lift you so that you may draw nearer to me in a more mature way. If the height makes you forget to kneel, that is not the elevation I desire for you. If the new position causes you to lose tenderness, you must return to the source. A new season does not only require greater capacity, it requires deeper intimacy with me, because the more you are entrusted with, the more you need to lean on me. You must also understand that stepping higher does not mean every difficulty disappears. I do not promise that the road ahead will be without strong winds, but I promise that you will no longer face the wind as the old person you were yesterday. You will walk with experience that has been purified, with a calm no longer easily broken, with clarity that can distinguish between a calling and a disturbance. New trials will come, but they will no longer have the authority to make you forget whom you belong to. Opposition may arise, but it will no longer be strong enough to pull you away from the identity I have placed within you. You have passed through fire and learned that fire cannot destroy what I preserve. You have passed through night and learned that night cannot extinguish the light I have kindled. Now step into the new chapter with gratitude, not pride. Remember where I found you, the tears I wiped away, the times I kept you from giving up, the closed doors that protected you, the waiting days that made you deeper. I do not lift you so that you may look down on others, but so that you may see farther and reach out more widely. I do not place you in a high place so that you may be glorified in yourself, but so that your life may reflect my faithfulness. You are no longer only one who has overcome. You are a living witness that my hand still repairs what has been broken, still calls the weary to rise, and still turns the lowest season into the foundation for a higher walk. Therefore, beloved child, lift your head in humility. The old season is closing, not as a wound forgotten, but as a lesson completed. I am opening before you a new expanse of sky, and you will step into it not alone, but with me, in the light of nearness, in the strength of maturity, and in the peace of a child who knows that every true elevation comes from the Father's hand. In this season, do not waste stillness through complaint. Let stillness become an altar. Learn faithfulness again in small things. Learn to speak pure words when no one is checking. Learn to do kind work when no one praises. Learn to care for what I have placed in your hands today, instead of only dreaming of what has not yet come tomorrow. True preparation is often hidden in the most ordinary things. I form your character in the way you respond to delay, in the way you treat someone who cannot help you advance, in the way you keep your heart tender while the promise has not yet taken shape. A person can receive a blessing in a moment, but to keep the blessing without being corrupted by it, that person needs many seasons of being shaped in secret. You must also know that I never use waiting to punish a child who is seeking me. If I let you wait, it is because I am protecting something precious. I am building within you an endurance that storms cannot sweep away. I am deepening your faith, so it will not depend on rising and falling emotions. I am teaching you to love my presence even before you see the result. And while you think you are standing still, many things within you are being rearranged. Ambitions are being purified, wounds are being softened, fears are being brought into the light, and wrong directions are being corrected by my patient hand. Therefore, be at peace in your process. Do not dig up the seed just because you have not yet seen the sprout. Do not abandon the field just because the ground is still quiet. Do not conclude that I have said no, simply because I have not yet said now. Believe that in me, delay can be mercy dressed in hidden clothing. I am preparing a blessing for you, but I am also preparing you for that blessing. When the day opens, you will understand why I taught you to wait, why I did not indulge your haste, and why the quiet months were so necessary. And when you stand in what I have promised, you will not only rejoice because you have received, you will bow your head in worship, because at last you realize that throughout the whole time you thought I was silent, I was still working more deeply, more gently, and more faithfully than you had ever understood.